Welcome, everyone. I'm Randy Austin, and I'm thrilled to kick off our very first Paragon open office hours. So the intent behind this is we wanted to create a space that's kind of less of a webinar and more of a workshop. So really informal, interactive session, and the intent here is really to answer your questions. Number one, to help you be successful using Paragon, to help you understand some of the new tools and features, or just any workflow kind of questions that you may have. Just want to kind of open it up, provide the forum to have the discussions. With that in mind here, most of what we're going to be discussing in these sessions is really current functionality. It is possible I'll talk about future development items, and I think everybody online right now is already an existing Paragon user, but just want to make sure that if I do provide any or make any forward-looking statements, that don't hold me to it. That's the short of it. So why are we here today? Why did we develop this or come up with this office hours? Really, there are four main things here. We want to make sure that you're helping you solve or tackle your current project challenges, and providing an opportunity to do that. This can be a forum to talk about new tools that have recently been released. We typically roll out software on a kind of every 1 to 2 weeks. So there's a lot of new stuff always coming out. To connect with other Paragon users out there, see how they're using the software, and see what we can learn from each other, and then discover. Everybody is going to use the software a little bit differently. So just, again, providing that forum to provide and share some tips and tricks and in things that are working for you that could really help others. All right, I think everybody does have the opportunity to mute and unmute yourself, again, as this is intended to be a kind of a open and interactive conversation. So I do appreciate you all signing up in advance. These are just some of the comments that you all had as you were logging in and registering for the event. So appreciate it. Again, just people wanting to learn how to optimize their usage and efficiency of Paragon. I've prepared in advance, prepared a few topics here, discussion topics around some of the some tips around mastering the layout fundamentals, as we've coined this, and as we look at how we can optimize the Paragon experience for users. There are multiple ways of doing a lot of things within Paragon. So when I look at how to optimize and kind of have the best experience possible using Paragon, I and others have come up with some tips here around how to master some of these layout fundamentals that should, again, help you save button clicks, help you save time, just kind of improve your overall workflow. So folks that have been using the software for a while may or may not know this, and again, the purpose of this is to share some of these tips and tricks. If you would like, feel free to open up Paragon on your monitor, on another monitor, wherever you want to put me or Paragon, and you can work alongside here if you so choose. All right. So the first things first, I'm going to create a new project on over here, and let's take a look at this thing. All right, so first thing first is we are in layout currently, so we'll just touch on a few things, and this was one of the shortcuts I kind of figured out. I don't know if it's a shortcut, it's more of a workflow thing that really helped me as I was getting started with Paragon about a year ago. Of course, in layout will be the first thing that we're doing here is putting in envelopes. So when I was first presented with kind of the layout UI user kind of the user interface, I saw all of these fields over here to the right, and I was moving my mouse a lot to get into this. And what I learned is you can use your keyboard for the direction and length. And while this may seem like a kind of a silly thing, it saves me a ton of button clicks and a ton of mouse movements. So while you are in kind of this bearing mode, I'm going to use my key, just using the keys on my keyboard. I just hit the right key, and you can see over here on the right side, the right arrow highlighted. I'm going to do something pretty darn simple here. So we're going to go right 30 feet on the keyboard. So I just did right 30 feet, press enter. There you go. Up, here we go, 20 feet, left 30 feet, and so on. Again, we've got the ability to use the direction and length. I just went into point snap mode. From here, we can use our active snaps, etc., to freestyle or pick up those individual points. And so there you go. That is just one simple kind of workflow, I don't know, an opportunity for workflow efficiency there. I'm still in the command there, so just an escape to get out of there. Here we are. I didn't actually make that final click. And there we are, and insert and close. So there's a that was a pretty easy one. This is going to be fun. The next one queued up here is using Alt click for point selection. So this is going to be a bit of a kind of a goofy one here, but I'm going to go back into bearings. We are in point selection mode, and this time, so using the keyboard and the arrow keys, etc., using the enter key, that allowed me to put walls in, bearings in sequence. What I'm going to do this time is I'm actually going to hold the Alt key on my keyboard. I'm going to switch this to back. We're going to create some art here, and we can see that by holding Alt, my previous endpoint becomes the new start point. So here we are. Look at that. Isn't that fun? There we have it. Escape to get out of there. So again, to kind of get into that repeat mode, you can hold down Alt. That's also available when we're putting in planes, and we'll touch on that there as well. All right. Is that Alt key? Excuse me, that Alt trick, is that new for anyone? Just give me a drop a Y, or just drop a Y if it's new to you into the chat. All right. All right, I'm gonna do something really messy here, and it's just to demonstrate this next one, which is trimming. Trimming versus picking points. We got Mac users out there, of course, Seth. Seth, perhaps you can be the translator over here for any Mac users. All right, so for this next one, again, this is bear with me in this example, as I'm going to make a mess out of what we've got going on here. I'm going to center line this one because that's going to be fun. All right, and I'm just inserting and closing. So trimming versus picking points. So this is our trim functionality, trim, extend, whatever you prefer, is going to be consistent for both for layout mode and design mode. And let's see here. The biggest thing to, I'd say the biggest thing to take note of, or I'll say to master, if you will, is that only one end of the segment, right? One end of the the object that you are going to be adjusting is going to be adjusted. So with that in mind, right? So if I select this member and I want to trim this back, trim extend, say to this line, what's going to happen? Any ideas? Is it going to keep the long end or the short end? Let's give it a go. So it's going to keep that long end. Thank you, Lane. There we go. There we go. So with that in mind, what we can do, I'll just hit undo there, and I'm going to do this again with the shortcut key. So I had selected the bearing initially. I right-clicked, right, trim extend, and this is another huge time saver here. That was actually the first time I had ever done that, I think. I typically will hold down the shift key, and now we have our cutting options. So you can cut back to wherever you want it. And there we go. All right. So if I wanted to, essentially, this is going to be tough based on this crazy this artwork I'm creating here. If I wanted to bring this line back, I'm going to turn off my dimensions for the time being. If I wanted to bring this line back to here, right? So essentially keeping that short segment, I cannot accomplish that straight off right off the bat by using the trim extend command, but rather I can adjust, pick new points for the left and or right. By selecting the member, and I think everybody, this is kind of I'd say should be pretty obvious for anyone that's been using the software, is when you do select a member, a truss envelope, or a bearing envelope, it automatically displays the left and the right end for you. And in this particular case, I want to adjust the left end. I want to bring that left end to this wall. So I can simply pick. I'm going to find my point, and there we have it. And that is the way to essentially bring back or trim back a wall, by readjusting the endpoints, if you do want to maintain or preserve that short segment of the object. All right. So again, pretty straightforward there. Yeah, and Jonathan mentioned here in the chat, and I love that. If you got other tips, tricks, etc., that you've been experiencing, would love to hear them, as Jonathan just did. He just dropped that into the chat. If you do want to trim that back, again, this is going to be tough with this particular example, but I could do subsequent trims, etc. And in this particular case, it's not going to fly, but you get the drift. So you could, if you do have cut lines, you could bring that back. Oh, here's maybe an example. There you go. So you can kind of use that while holding down shift. That's a pretty quick way of doing things. I've done that quite a bit in kind of in design mode, when you're trying to bring back a when you're trying to adjust the length of maybe a web or something, to get those intersections proper. The bearing orientation. Okay, so Seth just commented on bearing orientation. That's a good one. So if we take a look here at bearing, kind of the justification, if you will. So I'm going to set this as my start point. I'm going to turn on ortho just to make this really clear. So right now I am center lined off of that top right corner. If we change that to we got front here, I'll insert and repeat, and back here. So essentially, where is the wall? What edge of that wall is it? Are you of that kind of that reference line? Is it falling on? So is that the front edge or the back edge? And if you're still troubled, having troubles with that, if you're not getting what you want, pick the opposite one. But it'll once you get the hang of it, it'll flow pretty well. I think there's always some nuance in all the softwares I've used. There's always some nuance to kind of wall orientation and justification. All right, so we've been covering some, again, covering some fundamentals up to this point. And be sure to, if you've got topics that you want to make sure we cover, drop them in the chat or just raise your hand and we'll make sure to call on you. The next one here is the bearing display options. So this is one that's relative. We've got some relatively new changes here. And in order to show that, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to grab these walls. You see when we multi-select, I've got options here, and I'm going to make those non-structural. All right, so I made those non-structural, and as we can see, the wall color changed from this kind of bluish or cyan maybe to this kind of this lovely purplish color here. So that's one change. Non-load bearing walls are now represented differently. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show the next change, which is going to be differentiating or providing a hatch based off of the wall elevation. So I just changed that wall elevation to 9 there. I'm going to grab these and I'm going to 10 just to show what's going to happen for us here. And so we can see a different hatch pattern is defined based on the different wall elevations. So kind of that top of wall. If we want to see what this looks like, here we are. And then while we're in 3D, I'm going to go ahead and get us into our different view options. All right. So we saw hatched, and hatch only is kind of only the hatching is only displayed while you're in that 2D view. Here's a hotkey for you: Control M. Well, we'll get to that later when we're looking at modification commands. But we'll go back into this. All right. So we again, we're in 3D. We're going to take a look here. We are in 3D. The hatch versus wireframe is not going to be any different, but solid view is. All right. So that was solid view for the load bearing walls or structural walls, and then we have individual or separate controls for the non-load bearing walls as well. Of course, we can hide these as you see fit. Back into 2D, and when we go back into 2D, we see that it's just the wireframe and so on. So again, should be pretty straightforward there. All right, so going back, now that I had a chance to read through Seth's comment, thanks for providing additional context there, Seth. So when it comes to wall justification or bearing justification, with current functionality as it is today, you know, when you start creating your bearings, it's always going to kind of start at that 0 point, and then as I found, it's best or optimal to kind of work in that counterclockwise fashion in order to have your wall justification where you want it when it comes into putting to dropping in your roof and ceiling planes. And we are going to cover take a look at some planes here next if there aren't specific questions. So now that we've gotten our hands dirty a little bit within the software and within layout, we'll see if anyone up there has any questions or things you want to touch on. Any questions on anything I've showed thus far, or any other challenges or questions that you've had on bearings? But don't let that limit your questions. All right.
Hey, Randy, I got a question.
Yeah, sure thing.
And this is genuine. I'm thinking if there's a better way to input angled bearings than how I've always done it. So like, say I want to put in a bearing at like 45 degrees, right? How I've always done it is put a reference line in first and just lock it at 45 degrees and then put the bearing in. But is there any way to specify an angle on the bearing input or anything like that? Or just some trick you can think of that would make that easier?
Tracing. So as far as angles go in even especially radius walls or anything like that, or arched walls, excuse me. The best that I found is to trace either a DXF or a PDF, a PDF underlay. And if not, then you are dropping in the reference line as excuse me, work line in this particular case. So we could go into here, point and angle. We're going to select our start point. We're going to say I want this to go up 45 degrees and so on. So we would go here, and then from here, we can drop in our actually, I'm not even sure how that's going to fly on this one, since I don't have another point. And here, I'm just going to do this to finish this thought, and so on. So, Tyler, I think you got 6 months more experience using the software with me, so I would lean on you, buddy.
Well, and now that as you were explaining it, I thought of something. So if you're doing a 45-degree, like something simple like that, I guess you could just put in 2 temporary walls. So say the offset for the 45 is like 5 feet. So you could just do 5 foot over, 5 foot up, and then do some temporary walls if you didn't want to go into the work lines. But
yeah, and a lot of times on those on the architectural plans, especially for those like the bay windows, it will give you the X and Y coordinate. So for a bay window, for example, I might even come up here. I'm gonna actually I'm gonna help answer. I think that was Lane's question. I'm gonna answer that while I do this. So if there's a bay window coming off of here, say I don't know 2 feet up, what you could do is to draw in another wall up here at 2 feet, and then your distance over, and then you could just connect those points. But Lane here, for your question, he asked, is there an easy way to move walls once they are placed without needing new coordinates? So yes, there are. This is no, I'm not sure exactly when this came out. It's been around maybe a couple months, maybe even more. Shoot, time flies these days. But we have the ability now for I want to say all layout objects, that where you can. I'm not sure actually if we can do that with work lines. Yep, with all layout objects, that allows you to actually move these. So you can move, rotate, mirror. And I've been using a mirror a ton, but we can. So the first one I'm gonna do is to move. So for example, I could translate this, translate being the dimensions in which you want to move things. So if I wanted to move this up 2 feet, there I can move it 2 feet. If I wanted to duplicate it, so I can either apply that and it just moves it. All right, and here we're gonna have some fun here, selecting both of those walls, holding down Shift, extending those through. And then another way to do this, hotkey being Control M. Okay, we can duplicate that, and again, this time I'm going to move that up 2 feet, and I could even have some fun here and move that up even a foot in the Z axis, if you will. So here we are, and I've never tried that one before, so I'm curious. Yeah, it changed that elevation to 9, so that's cool. And so that was a way to move an existing wall. So I moved the first time I moved it up the 2 feet. The second time I actually duplicated it and moved it up. And then for this one here, I'm just going to drop in a work line just to kind of round out this the functionality here. Oh yeah, this was a change that came out last week, I think, is if you select a bearing, and then when you hold down Control, the bearings is automatically selected there, so that saves you a click or two. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mirror, and you'll notice when you go to mirror, duplicate is automatically enabled. And then I'm just going to select that line on which to mirror. And there we have it. And then while those things are selected, you know, I can move them up. I can move it over 10 feet and I can move it up 10 feet and so on. So we can have a lot of fun there. All right, so that was a few items around you know, around bearings. Any other questions here? Questions, comments, tips that you've come across? All right. Oh, there we go. How do we import a DXF? Great question. So the DXF support, actually, I'm going to fast forward or cover another topic here real quick while we answer that question. So what I am doing here, head over to the docs.paragontrust.com. How to import a DXF, and I want to search across all content. And we could ask AI if we wanted to do so, or we could look at the search, our search options. We've got some output, we got some download reference, and we've got, oh, that's interesting. What is going on here? So if we take a look at work lines, and we can import a DXF, import DXF work lines. So that is how we're going to go about doing this. So what we can do is go into work lines. We're going to import lines from a DXF. And I am going to search through some files here. Bear with me. And I'm going to look for a DXF file. Oh, this is going to be fun. Oh, there we go. This is good. And there is old training plan 2, I believe, with the hip roof option. So now that work lines are created, and actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hide those walls that were in there, those bearings. And if I go into 3D, we can see that those work lines, excuse me, the DXF file was imported kind of as work lines, and now these are available for reference and for tracing. All right, you good with that, Lane? All right, and then just to tag onto that, I'm going to tie a few things together. So we imported lines. You could just as well import a or underlay a just as well as import an underlay. I got distracted, my bad. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into bearings. We'll go to point, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that trick or tip to hold down Alt. You got to be careful here to make sure you're snapping to the right things. Hold down Alt, and so on. It's tracing over those lines. Actually, I'm going to do this. And I got turned around somehow. Oh, yeah, that's what was happening there. There we go.
And Randy, one thing that might help you pick the right lines, one thing that I found that's helpful to me is snapping it to orthogonal when you're doing those right ankle walls, because otherwise it's pretty easy to snap to a slight angle and not notice.
Yeah, that's a great tip there. I got a mess here. So I confused myself because I had my wall visibility turned off. And here we are. That's what I was going for. So ortho is turned off right now, just so I can demonstrate kind of that pivoting. We'll turn on ortho per Tyler's suggestion. Hold down Alt, and then here I'm just putting in little wall segments, as you can see. So a couple tips there. And I'm creating quite the mess here. I'll delete that, although I think that's probably the messier part of that. So can you bring in DWG lines or Revit file? We do not support importing DWG or Revit files at the moment. Jonathan, yes, as you know, we can bring in those the PDF underlays, and we can take a crack at that one. All right, and then reading through comments here. That's right. Seth commented on the doc site and using help. Using the search function. You noticed here when I first came to the doc site, you go to the docs homepage. If you type into here, and again, what did we look at? We typed in DXF. So when it looks at by default, it's only looking at your current page. So it's only looking at the current page. So what I did there is I said I wanted to look at all content. So it's going to look at all docs content. And then we could even go here and say import a DXF. And not only is it searching the content, but it also you can use the power of AI. How to import a DXF? And I'm asking our AI bot here. It's thinking through. So what it's doing is it's scouring all of the Paragon doc site, and it's going to return a lovely summary of what you can do with DXF files. So we can import DXF work lines. We can see here that I think that's the topic we were just in. We've got a frequently asked questions topic as well. And I'm curious about this one. I always like to use the old Control F. And there's work lines. Does Paragon support wall panel and EWP? And all kinds of questions there. Okay. All right, Tyler, you're using AutoCAD. You can export a DWG as a DXF. Yes, and then it should work. Yep, good call on that one. Okay. All right. Keep those questions coming. Next, I'm going to delete these work lines. Let's see. We've got a few topics on roof planes. So we got heel height versus the butt cut method. Alt clicking for sequential creation. Touched on that a little bit with walls. It's the same thing. And auto cutting planes, which has seen great improvement, vast improvement recently. So we'll touch on that a little bit. And then adjusting fascia is another one that is a pretty powerful tool. Let's see here. I'm going to use this simple layout here, and we'll get rid of this guy. All right, so a few things here on the roof planes, heel height versus butt cut. This is one that can be a little bit confusing. We're going to be focusing here on the right side. I don't know, my preferred is a 6/12 slope, just for demonstration's sake. So we have these different heel methods. So butt cut. The butt cut method is going to essentially automatically calculate your heel height using a 1/4 inch butt cut on that bottom chord, and then using the slope as well as the top chord board width. So if you're saying a 2x4, then that's how it's going to use all of that to calculate it. I'm going to tie this together with the other tip of using Alt, or holding down that Alt key. So you can see it's asking me to select the reference line, essentially, that I want that plane. I'm holding down Alt, and there we go. And that automatically puts them in. If I don't hold down Alt, then I'm here, insert and repeat, here, insert and repeat. There we go, and so on. Right. So if you are wondering, okay, well, what is the actual heel height of that thing? If you go over here with that selected and change that over to heel height, it just displays what that calculated value was. So 043 was the calculated value. All right, the next thing here is auto cut. This is such a simple one. I'm gonna at least remove a plane and see how it does on this one. It's also going to be interesting to see how it does with the other kind of that other structure I've got over here. So auto cut, that was great. That's exactly what we wanted it to do. It picked that gable end and so on. And then I think this is something that will be coming out in our next release. What's that? Version 358 is if we adjust one of these pitches here, that it will automatically reconfigure those auto cut planes. It currently is not doing that, so that'll be an improvement coming out here in this next release. And that's actually this is actually, I'm going to change all of these to an 812. I want to show you what when you are cutting planes in manually, and then you change a pitch. The repair, the recutting, the automatic recutting, and is automatically done, and that's pretty slick. And I'm going to show you that in a sec. And that'll be the same thing with auto cutting. So I'm going into 3D on this particular one. And this time I'm going to change this guy over to a 1012, and you can see that automatically solves or repairs itself, if you will, or automatically recuts. And there we go. And then when I was cutting that plane in, I'm going to turn off those non-load bearing walls or non-structural walls. Oh, that was a non-structural wall. There we go. Now you're off. When I was cutting in this gable plane, I'm going to do that one more time, a little slower. So recut. I'm going to hold down shift. Holding down shift is going to give me that vertical plane line, so you can cut to any edge by holding down shift. I'm going to cut against that plane by hovering above that plane. We give you a preview that it's green, so that's cool. There we go, cutting against that one, and then finish. This is a very minor thing, but it may help you avoid some, I'll say maybe some frustration, is when you are cutting planes here. I'm going to do this again. And when you go to finish, I don't know if you all saw that. If I add another, I can, oh, here's a huge tip. Control Z is going to get you out of the last selected plane cut, if you will. And so watch down here on the bottom right, that's going to jump on me. So as you are adding cuts, the cut against in this order, that's going to expand. So as you're once you get really fast at this, you might be faster in the program to get down here and finish cutting, and it'll move on you. So I'm establishing a habit personally to go down here. This finish cutting is always static. All right, I think one of the so let's see here. We covered the heel height, alt click, auto cut, and then the last one to cover on this one is adjusting fascia. So we have I think these planes are what, 812s. This one's you know what, I'm gonna make the math really easy here. I'm gonna say that this is a 6, this one is an 8. We know the heel height of this thing was what, 043, if I remember that right. And so if we want to adjust the fascia height here, or adjust the heel height so that fascia matches, I can grab that higher slope pitch plane, adjust fascia height. And before I do that, I want to verify this. So if I take a look at this one, take a look at the heel height on this one, 047. All right, so just making sure that we want to validate what it is before we do it. I want to adjust the heel height while maintaining the overhang, picking, and what it's doing is it's asking me to pick the plane that I want to match, adjust, and there we go. So again, keep an eye close in here on the intersection. You see that 812 plane is extending out here. So one more time, adjust fascia height, pick my 612, adjust, and there we go. So it tidies that up nicely. And that way the fascia will align while maintaining a 1 foot overhang. And then the heel height bumped up. It changed from 047, which is the default 812. The default 812, and it heel height of 047, and it moved that to a 063, which is 2 inches greater than the 612 pitch heel height. We've got a couple minutes left on the calendar slot. Again, been pretty quiet. Oh yeah, there we go, Jonathan. I love that. Jonathan, this is a great tip to cover here with a couple minutes left. He uses the calculator function. So I want everybody to know, like this is a really simple one here, but I use this function all the time, which is if I wanted to adjust that left end, it's at 40 feet right now, but I need to do some crazy math in here. Again, my cursor's down at the bottom right. Any math is pretty easy on an even number like that. But what I can do is a space plus sign, and I want to move that, I don't know, 610 and a half. All right, so 610 and a half. I'm going to tab out of that field just to see it, and there we go, 4610 and a half. So it just changed the it just moved that endpoint, because that was the actual coordinate. I'm going to do this again using it in a different way. So let's say I want to move that, like you're trying to move it according to dimensions on your plan. You got a 10-foot dimension. I'll say I'm going to say just 10, and then what you can do here is do I need to come to the bottom side of a dimension, so I could say minus 308, and there we go. It does the math. 9 foot 8 and a half, and it's going to move it by that much. So the only gotcha there, and we are at time, the gotcha there is if you are doing performing a math function, for example, a calculation, and you're using the minus operator, you have to make sure that there is a space between the preceding dimension and the trailing dimension. So, and then I always tab out of the command. I always tab out of the command just to see the math before I hit apply. All right, Jared. Yes, the intent is to make this presentation available and the video available to everybody. Absolutely. So we'll be putting a video link out to everybody that signed up. Okay. All right. Well, folks, again, we're at time. 1 minute over. Shame on me. Thanks so much for bearing with me as I work through some technical challenges here on this first office hour session. Reminder, docs at paragontrust.com, training at paragontrust.com, and make sure you're using that search. So we'll leave it with that. Have a great weekend, great rest of your Friday, and a great weekend. And thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. All right, take care, everyone.